So guys, this weekend we have the Big 12 SEC Challenge in the men's game. That is what that's called, right, John?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's a brief detour from the conference schedule. There's a lot of intriguing matchups. Certainly historically, Kansas Kentucky is, a matchup of two blue bloods. Now, Kansas is on a little bit of a slide. How much do you think these coaches get into these conference battles? Pac-12 does some with the Big 12 as well. And do they have any lasting benefits beyond just bragging rights?
Well, I know Scott Drew loves it because his teams always do well in these. I mean, as you know, SEC Challenge, Big East, Pac-12, you name it. They've got pretty remarkable records in them. And I think his teams really get up for him because I think they know the importance of them. At the end of the year when the NCAA tournament committee is looking at the resumes and, you see, late January, early February, you see a win over another really good conference team. And I think, he lets his players know the importance of it. And I also think that, I think they kind of like stepping outside a conference, maybe midway through. I think it kind of relieves the pressure a little bit. Baylor always looks pretty relaxed and loose in these games. And I think it's just kind of their approach to it. And they normally play pretty well in them. So I know Scott Drew really likes it. I don't know about the other coaches, really, how much they like it. But I would think in general, it's kind of like a breath of fresh air in the middle of conference play.
Danny, what do you say?
I mean, I think it's one of those things where it is kind of a nice little break. Obviously, I think the women do theirs in December, whenever that Big 12 SEC deal was. But at the end of the day, no one's hanging a banner, regardless of what happens this week. But I think if you're a team with tournament aspirations, you hope you get matched up with another team that will test you. But it's also something that Texas is playing Tennessee this weekend, and obviously for Texas fans, because of Rick coaching there, that there's a lot of intrigue there, and people will be happy to watch that game and hope that Texas wins. But if Texas loses, it's not the end of the world. You get dinged a couple of spots in your rankings, and maybe lose a spot or two in the net, but you don't have to win this game. As opposed to if Texas went out and lost to TCU this weekend, that would be a pretty big blow to them in the race for the conference championship. So it's good. It's a nice little break in the middle of a long conference season. Hopefully your team is getting tested this weekend. You're not playing the last place team in the SEC or whatever. And then, you can take what you get from this and move on. But obviously if, Texas or Baylor wins by 30, that banner's not going up next weekend. You just kind of, mark that, learn from it and move on.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I do think there are bragging rights. I think that is part of it. Certainly, John, you mentioned Scott Drew. Scott's a numbers guy. He always seems to have some at the holster,
Oh yeah,
and so
ready to draw.
If the Big 12 beats the SEC in this thing, I'm sure in one of his future press conferences he'll be like, "Well, the Big 12 went 7-3." But I would say it's more likely to be evenly split. I'm with you guys. I like just a brief little detour there. It's certainly more interesting than, let's say, the SEC football teams playing the Sisters of the Poor in November. That little detour that they do in their conference season, that's never made any sense to me, but go figure. So anyway, that's a tale for another podcast.